Hello there! So glad you could join me. I hope you're holding on to your hats. I hope you're strapped in. I hope you're ready. Because we're about to meet!
We are your eyes.
Shara Ishvalda and... Safi'jiiva's brothers. Where are we gonna meet them? Why? Oh yes, my fellow hunters. It has been all but a week now, and the wilds have run, well, wild across every thought of the Monster Hunter community, and I have been consumed. And I am ready to present my first proper discussion, theory, talk. This is totally it, slam dunk, mark my words, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, on this incredible new Monster Hunter experience that lies so very far ahead. So what will we be focusing on? Well, two things. Number one, what I would say is almost definitive proof that this is going to take place in the new world, an extension of the map we knew and loved in World and Iceborne, and then beyond that, the identity of, if not the final boss, Rathalos! No! Two distinct elder dragons that we will almost certainly be facing down in our adventures. So let's begin with the new world then. I mean, the easy comparisons are there, right? The hunter has a slinger and a scout fly cage. That is new world technology. That is new world standard issue. Hunters everywhere else don't use that, but yeah, it's possible that this is set far enough in the future that it is spread to the old world and it's just so convenient and useful that everybody's doing it, but it really is emblematic of the fleets, isn't it? We also then have, I think, the very easy one to point at and go, hey, the Monster Hunter in Monster Hunter Wilds is identical in font, color, everything to the Monster Hunter in Monster Hunter World. I mean, that's not an accident, is it? I feel like, yeah, maybe spiritual successor, or at least, you know, the kind of essence of World 2, just set in a slightly different location with different mechanics, as Monster Hunter tends to do, but, you know, we really are wanting to follow up with World, which, ignoring, you know, clues and lore and theory, just makes practical sense business-wise, because it's the most successful game in Capcom's history, and doing something that is recognizable to the 30 million people that played it is very sensible. The third point then is there is a perfect place in the new world to actually serve as the staging ground for what I'm still convinced is going to be one giant Guiding Lands-esque open world map. You see, in Celiana, if you take a stroll up to the command table and have a look down, you get the map of the new world. It's much less detailed than the one you see when you choose which locale or base you want to go to, but it's very clearly the same. And you'll notice that while there isn't too much else going on the map we used to fast travel, the one on this desk has an entire massive, same size as all of World and Iceborne combined, landmass to the right, connected but completely unexplored, untamed, perhaps you could say wild. So the idea that we have a staging ground somewhere around here, and this is where we maybe find or get our mount, and then explore out into this, well, completely new territory, find what we find, and experience what we experience. It's why we carry our camp with us, because there's nothing here. We are the new first fleet, air quotes, of this place. Everything else was poured into cracking the new world that we know. Now that we've uncovered its mysteries, beaten its big bads, and tamed it to the best of our ability, we need to look further afield. World. We said at the end of Iceborne, at the end of Worlds, that the 5th fleet and all the other fleets that are left are going to stay and keep researching the new world. So the logical way to do that is to go into more of it, this area to the right. And it is the perfect size and shape, the kind of sphericalness, to be a giant Guiding Lands-esque map with this circle rock formation. Looks like it's got a hole blasted out of it in the center that we see in the Wilds reveal. So working with all of that then, the 4th reason that I think it is most certainly the new world is also the reason that gives us 2 potential Elder Dragons we'll be facing. A long time ago, and we're talking 4 years. How has it been 4 years since Iceborne? I made a little theory on the Tale of the Five. In the classic base world player room, you can walk in and you can look up and you can see a stained glass window. This is a visual representation of the Tale of the Five. It is a creation myth in the Monster Hunter universe to explain how everything came to be. It started out with people and dragons in this white void with naught but a blazing sun, and then the people went, hey, I kind of want something more. Yeah, there's no pain or suffering here, but there's also nothing to attain. There's no joy. It's just neutral forever. So the dragons obliged and created, well, the start of everything. And then those 5 dragons, the Tale of the Five, all went on to become and represent one of the aspects of the world. One dragon sank into the sea and became the land. One dragon lifted its gaze to the sky and became the mountains. One dragon stooped low and became the lakes and scattered its scales to create the rain. One dragon fell into a deep slumber and became the forests. The last dragon climbed far into the sky to become a star of sapphire blue, shining brightly above the island. This island, this landmass that they transformed into, is easy to identify as the New World. The tale ends with the New World being uninhabited by humans, which lines up with the fleets exploring this untapped land and trying to crack into what it holds. There's no one here pre-existingly, and the Wyverians are here, but it says not inhabited by humans, not Wyverians, so that still holds up. And then over time, well, time began, the seasons began, and everyone forgot how these dragons made everything be, and indeed how anything came to be, just that it did. And while I encourage you to definitely read the whole thing, what matters here is the literal 5, and the clues we have about them. 2 of them, I think we very much know. One dragon lifted its gaze to the sky and became the mountains.
Just its shell?
I won't wax lyrical on this, but to me that's Shara Ishvalda, the final boss of Iceborne, and he very much represents the earth, the rock, in that fashion, but not like the earth down below. His whole thing was the literal mountains, and yes, while he destroyed them, there's nothing to say that he can't personify them, especially in the form that he takes throughout the encounter. The other one is, well, super easy. The last dragon climbed far into the sky to become a star of sapphire blue, shining brightly above the island. Back when I made this, we only had Xeno'jiiva, not Safi'jiiva, and even then Xeno still made sense for it, but Safi has really hammered it home. I mean, he literally drops the sapphire bomb attack, and that just is a representation of the sapphire star. Like, it could not be clearer that this totally is Safi'jiiva-y. Now, I'm not saying that specifically Shara and Safi are species of animal that can create, you know, well, creation, because obviously Monster Hunter tries to stay a little bit grounded in its ecology and such forth, but I do think they are, if not the source of the myth, their ancestors were. All good myths and legends do have a grain of truth, like the Cyclops existing because of a woolly mammoth skull that looks like it just has one eye. Then we get the remaining 3. Back then, of course, I could only speculate on them. Maybe Zora was the one that sank into the sea and became the land. We know Zora's skull makes up a lot of the guiding lands, and Zora did go out to sea to die. But now is when we get into the Wilds logo, and the 2 twinned serpents that coil to form it. Obviously, there is a clear, 6 there, and obviously at this stage I should say that most Monster Hunter logos for new generation games have as many monster faces as the generation is. The World logo had 5, which also could be a nod to the Tale of the 5 Shore, but this one now has 6 because it's the 6th generation, the 4 little snakes and the 2 big main ones. And while I think there's more to explore with the 4 little ones, the 2 big main ones are certainly interesting. And if we do believe that there is more going on here, more hidden within this than a simple, well, it's the 6th gen, so we put 6 monster looking things, they're cool, yeah, sneaky, alright, that'll do, in the logo, then, well, we can get some cool little insights here. And it starts with identifying what real-world region do we think this Monster Hunter game is going to take inspiration from. Like how Sunbreak had a lot of medieval Europe vibes, a lot of ye old English knights and castles and, that kind of thing. And, well, the one that I was leaning towards is, this is very clearly a Aztec-y Mayan carving vibe, right? It looks like what you'd find on the wall of a temple that's been excavated. And with that in mind, you do get something like Quetzalcoatl, which is a snake deity, who is very much all about the wind and the rain and is high above in the sky. The light and wisdom, Lord of the winds, the god of life, a real stand-up feathered snake in Aztec mythology. And this, to me, could quite comfortably be the one dragon that stooped low and became the lakes and scattered its scales to create the rain. The rainbow scales of Quetzalcoatl have very much significance. And if we look at the actual logo itself, you do see there is ripples that look like water droplets upon them. I think the rain comparison directly to the Tale of the 5 here is certainly represented in its construction, and the serpent that's heading to the sky, to the top, is the only half of the logo that has these water droplets into a lake, so the ripples of water going out affect to them. The serpent going down doesn't have anything like that, and indeed the Wilds itself, the name, does have a sort of reflection to it, watery, which might have a whole other set of implications and something I want to talk about, but you definitely do have this rain and lake theme of rain falling into lake and the visuals that create in relation to this giant snake. So then we have to look at the bottom one. Is there another way that could go? Well, there is a certain mirror of Quetzalcoatl who is Xolotl. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that wrong, but Xolotl, who is a god of death, which is very much underworldy, i.e. very much below ground, i.e. very much downwards, which the other one certainly could take the role of, and that could very much be the one that sank and became the land. And there is 4 associated deities with Quetzalcoatl that each represent one of the winds, the north, west, east, and south wind, gods of each of them respectively. which certainly might match up to the 4 little snakes that are going everywhere, and they are the 4 distinct areas of the map, and we know the sandstorms, and that's very wind related, so wind deities and the Aztecness of it does seem like a very strong contender. Oh, and there are interpretations of Quetzal involving lightning and other aspects of himself too, so that ties in nicely as well, and I really do kind of like that. However, there is one other interpretation that I wasn't initially going to mention because I was very much in this Aztec rabbit hole, but I do think it is worth sharing. It's a thought by the Roaring Rex, who is one of our lovely patrons and an all-round fantastic individual, and he ran with the African angle. Cotton suggested this, and a lot of people have too. It does look like, you know, the plains of Africa, and that certainly lines up with this wild theme, especially if any of these serpent rain gods that we're talking about ever get to bless the rains down here. And I think it's awesome that he's come to the very similar conclusion that it is Tale of the Five related and New Worldy, but through very different avenues and different information basis. Like, theory crafting is marvelous, and this is one of the ways that it really does bring people together. So if we look at more African mythology, as they very much correctly pointed out, we do find 2 specific dragons. And they are Aida, the rainbow goddess, and Damballa, the cosmic rainbow serpent. Damballa is the serpent of the earth, i.e. easily the one that sank into the sea and became the land, the one that is pointing downwards into the earth with more earthen colours on our lovely logo. And then we have ourselves Aida, who is the snake of the sky that brings rain and makes rainbows. So, again, this one is very much a parallel to the dragon that stooped low, became the lakes, and scattered its scales to create the rain, the rain droplet ripple watery effects in the logos, and in either case, whether you go with the more Aztec-y mythology or the African mythology, and ironically the rainbow serpent and Quetzalcoatl are quite often compared, so I do like that there is such similarity there. You have dragons that come in pairs, or in the Aztec case, a group of 6, which is quite, I think, poignant, that are very much weather-related, which seems to be a big factor of Wilds, but also, in both cases, very strongly match 2 more of the Tale of the Five. And given that we know that it's going to be, or at least we strongly think from everything that I've said, it's going to be the New World, and World and Iceborne took that Tale of the Five and had a final boss each time that represents one of them as a sort of soft theme, then perhaps in Wilds we will get the dragon that sank into the sea and became the land, the dragon that stooped low and became the lakes and scattered its scales to create the rain, as either a pair of final bosses or at least 2 elder dragons we fight on our way, and they are the 2 snakes going up, going down in the logo. The up rain snake also seems to have what looks like an egg coiled around it, which I definitely think is fascinating, given there is 4 smaller snakes, so there might be a children duo angle a la Ibushi and Nawa. But I do think we have a very compelling set of thoughts here. We have so much evidence for the New World, and then we have what I think is this real linchpin Tale of the Five that not only adds evidence to the New World, but we can really use to get an idea for some elder dragons we might face that very much seem to be the 2 snaky boys in the logo. And finally then, just to really, hammer it home, if we look at the full stained glass mural for the Tale of the Five, well, we can see the following. We have ourselves the Sapphire Star at the top right, we have Shara Ishvalda, or at least the Mountain Dragon at the bottom right, and I say Shara because it's a big palm, it's got the themes that Shara had, and just look at Shara's hammer if you need any more convincing of that one. And then on the left we have 2 snaky looking things, one going up, one going down. The up one is like in a lake making rain and looks, you know, snaky, so that's pretty on point. And then the one down below is less so, but still very much the same kind of swirly up-down motif. Which means all that remains is the dragon that became the forest, which might well be something we face in the future. Either Master Rank or a title update, and then we get the full tale of the 5, and the New World saga of Monster Hunter that spans 5th and 6th gen is complete. Oh, so that's kind of where it's all at, where my thoughts are going and have settled, and I hope you have found this certainly interesting to listen to, and I would love your own take on it. What's going to happen? Why? With what inspirations? So often Monster Hunter draws very, both subtly and obviously, and in very creative and compelling ways from the real world, both literally and in terms of our own myths and legends, that I think this stuff really isn't far-fetched at all, and it's only a case of identifying where the main inspiration that fuels it actually lay. And I think this is quite a close a guess as we're going to get from what we do know so far. For now then, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.